Now, of course, we can't just leave you hanging with only talking about what happens when you're player one. Let's take some time to talk about player two and ways that you could potentially counter this strategy. Did we hit everything? What have you been doing to try and win as player two on The Floor is Lava? Let me know down in the comments or hit up the Random's Thoughts Discord. Of course, that's where you'll find out news about Fright Night and Monster of the Week, our weekly tournament series. Find out a little of the news there first. So check that out. Thereabouts the like and subscribe button. Now, before we actually jump into the strategy, of course, I want to let everybody know that I'm part of the content affiliate program. That means that the Phobies team does give me coffee for producing Phobies content. Just got to let everybody know, but let's get to it. So let's discuss a little bit about the Alien Engineer setup. Maybe I'll pull this and break it up into a playlist. So we watched a couple games pointed out by DT. Shout out to DT for finding this and identifying this because I think this is really cool. If you are having difficulty as player one on this map, take some notes from Alien Engineer. It's probably a good player to take notes from anyway. So the game plan is abnormal compared to what a lot of people do on this map. Let's have to readjust this so you can see it. So what Alien Engineer has been doing is a pretty aggressive player one strategy, and I'm curious how people would respond. We have seen the quote-unquote Hakune defense way back when, but it's been some time, and obviously out of the games we've observed from Alien Engineer's opponents, no one's responding in the way they need to. It was pretty one-sided, as most Alien Engineer games go. But you get a one key going to this panic point. All right, pretty standard. The unique part immediately starts on turn one. You get K9000 here, a tanky 2-drop. Now you're up 2-0. You got these panic points. Your opponent, as we've seen, has typically been responding a flyer down to here, a one key to here, and then depending on what the flyer is, maybe a one key to here. All right, so they've either evened the panic points or they end up taking a slight panic point advantage briefly. The follow-up from Alien Engineer has been to move the K9, depending on what your opponent does, either into position here or closer, or to block off this spot and then bring Spud here. Why? Because you can swing the one key here, and then ultimately on the following turn, aggressively take this point. The Spud ends up claiming a position either to shell the heart or, as we saw in the last game, to take this point and then from there continue to shell the heart. This point is very difficult to assail if you're defending as player two because you can hit it with Jar from this position. You can also send the flyer back, but it's going to be exposed to both the Spud and the K9000. So a lot of people have been hesitant in the games we have observed to doing that. So how do you actually respond to this? Because ultimately, those responses from both players that we watched, they fell to Alien Engineer and quickly because it was 5-1 panic points, 6-0 panic points because there were a bunch of one keys running around. We had misanthropes, we had hevos, we had other supplements, other reinforcements backfilling, and then ultimately just shelling the heart. On top of, hey, there's all these panic points. You can do a lot of damage fast. So what do you do as player two? You see a one key, you see a K9000. You have to assume this is the Alien Engineer opener on this map. So what's your response? Well, we've already seen flyer and one key not really cut it. Is it possible for that to deflect this opener? I guess it's not impossible. But since it hasn't been successful, let's look at other options. As pointed out by chat, and as I was mentioning earlier, Hakune used to lean into sending a one key here and then sending a Gravedigger to break this block. This opens up a lot of your movement. Specifically, with this block missing, you can send a ranged phobie here that can now target all of these. Well, here as well. So you get this entire triangle covered by this ranged phobie. Additionally, even if it's something as simple as a cassowary, it now can leap into this triangle and start causing havoc. It obviously allows and cuts down on the time involved for your reinforcements to get here. Yes, you still have to take a roundabout way, but it basically just gives you more surface area for you to stuff your team into. Now, when we saw Hakune do this way back when, it wasn't a cookie cutter response that just blanketed your opponent. It wasn't a hard rock, paper, scissors of no matter what you do, I'm going to stuff, I'm going to stymie, I'm going to smother this offensive. So you have to continually pressure. But remember, if you are facing down this Alien Engineer opener, you have a 1 key who's swung back here. Fairly normal. So that 1 key, eventually it banks back this way, but it's going to be exposed. It's going to be exposed, or it's going to take itself out of the game for some amount of time. The phobies that you're dealing with down here are Spud, possibly here or somewhere along this line, and then like K9000. Possibly it's here, blocking. They aren't exactly the phobies you see a lot. They aren't ones that are going to set the world on fire statistically. You know, Spud is relatively fragile. K9000 is still a melee phobie, although it's pretty tanky. So your response could include a number of things that could address it, even if you're just poking at them and presenting the threat of, hey, my Gravedigger's right here. It broke this block. I've claimed the panic point. Remember, you did that on 1. So now the Gravedigger represents a threat, and your follow-up represents a threat. It could even be a jar here if you really had to. The point is that you're representing more things that's making your opponent react. So we're going to have to see, as people try and implement Alien Engineer's game plan, can they maintain the high level of play to continue the pressure, or is Gravedigger / other options going to actually deflect this offensive? And then we'll have to see what the next step in the evolution is. Personally, so if you went 4 keys on 1 key, and then Gravedigger, I'm going to say here. I don't know that we'll see if it makes a difference, but we'll say Gravedigger here. So that means there's a 1 key that you pass then. K9, or rather Spud was here, so Spud goes here. So let's do it this way, chat. We're going to do it in blue. So this is blue, this is blue, this is blue. This is after turn 2. This is orange. We have I hate writing in paint, but we have Spud there. We have K9. Then we have, let's say, Gravedigger. The 1 key is going to bank back here. Gravedigger probably just moves to here. Because if you go here, you're vulnerable. You're going to die. If you go here, you're probably also going to die. Because whatever the follow-up, like you could snowball K9 Spud. Is that enough on level to kill it? I think it is, but I'm not sure. So if that happens, like we're set up like this. You're under oh wait, we got to do this. So it was 4-1 at the 4-1 panic points at the start of player 2's turn. It's 4-1. After that, it's 4-2. What is your next play with 3 keys? Can you go a 1-mover, or is that too slow? Because the problem is the 3rd turn, this one key is going to make their way over here. Because you vacated it because you're coming down here. So maybe... No, because then you're probably dead. If this is going to be a tough call, because it's possible that on turn 2, you leave the one key here to not give up this panic point. Or you send it in to, like, flip this. And then you send Gravedigger here. The problem is then K9, Spud, and Snowball are still a threat. If we assume that they can kill the Gravedigger, then you're losing the Gravedigger right there. Like, they're going to pick it. So... I don't hate a jar play here, because then the jar will eventually pressure this. Like, it has to dislodge. The thing is I wonder if you don't hit Spud, you actually hit this. So if this is broken, depending on what the follow-up is here, and I know I'm in the wrong color here, but, like, one key goes here, and maybe that one key is Electric Cat. Gravedigger hits here, so 1, 2, 3, because you okay, so turn 2, you pop out the jar gets a shot. Turn 3, if the Gravedigger is here, I don't think they come after you, because you, like, the K9 can't go here. Because if they do, you're just going to kill it on the next turn, and there's no way they can threaten it. Because the blue player turn 3 is this, based on what we saw. This shows up because your guys are out of the way. I think then you can try and trap here. So like I said, you collapse down depending on whether the K9 stays, which I think it will. It may just stay here and block. It may move to this spot, but either way, you get the surface area. So you have Gravedigger, Electric Cat, Jar, probably a dead K9. The problem is you have no way, because you only have 3 keys. Like, how are you killing this one key up here? Because otherwise, you're looking at a 5-to-1 panic point advantage for, like, 3 turns. I wish there were a test mode where I could just set this up so I don't have to do it John Madden style, but... like, on its surface, I feel like you could defend this way and then just lock this. The problem is that... so, okay, let's say you lock it. Then blue says, I'm going to backfill again. And now it's a 6-0 panic point advantage, and I'm sending more guys. We saw a misanthrope in one of the games, but the other game, it was a Hevo just because of the way the banking situation worked out. If you instead, as player 2, use the jar to shell the Spud, and then, like, kill this one key with your one key and Gravedigger, send a one key here, and then get a cassowary / it kind of comes down to what, because this is your turn 3. It depends on what the first player followed up with. So if they followed up and put something in this area, then you're going to run into problems with, say, walking up a unicorn. That's not going to work because the unicorn will just die. And I don't know that you'll be able to retaliate very well. That being said, it does pull them off of your heart to a degree. Because I kind of feel as though you need to get a cassowary in here just for the higher damage potential. What are the 2-cost electricals besides bloat? Or 3-cost elect? Well, so what is it? It's Electric Cat, Bloat, Thunder Rocks, right? And those options suck. Although Phobies crashed on me, chat. Hold on. So what if you, like, Bloat is not going to die, right? What could they do on 3 keys that kills Bloat on level? Like, Spud K9 Snowball, is that enough to kill a Bloat? It probably is. Like, if we're assuming it can kill a Gravedigger, which it may not be able to, it should be able to kill Bloat, right? No. So my Gravedigger is level 15. It has 1,562 health. My Bloat is level 11, and it has 1,755. Now, don't get me wrong. I really don't want to use Bloat. But it is tanky, and it is electrical. It just kind of feels bad. So you could instead of Bloat, what if you just marched Stabby here / Bowmangles? Because then they're in range next turn. They're out of range of this Spud temporarily. And it's like going to be impossible for them to actually kill it. And if they do kill it, whatever, like they're 100% losing whatever killed it. Maybe not due to the dimensional damage, but you're going to lose it because it gets pulled. So that means you go like, you kill, because remember, their turn, the blue player's turn 3 is they brought the 1 key here. They brought the 1 key in. They supplemented with something to this spot. You swing back. This is the 1 key in Gravedigger. You kill the 1 key back. Then you march Stabby down here and you continue shelling with the jar. Maybe instead, okay, hold on. This is another thought. Well, we'll finish this one, then I'll come back to that. That allows you to then threaten the canine / this thing, whatever this thing is. And it's very unlikely that they're able to kill either Bowmangles or Stabby. And even if they can kill Stabby, which I guess isn't impossible, they will have to think about it. They can't just do it blindly and continue on their merry way. The other alternative, which instead of doing this, like imagine we never go jar. So turn 1, they K9 1 key. We Gravedigger 1 key. Then they collect the board as we see it now. Our turn 2, we march Stabby here. So at this point, we could either leave the 1 key here or put the Gravedigger here and then leave the 1 key here. Point is that we have both points covered. They have to interact with it. They would have to expose themselves in order to interact with it. So if the 1 key is up here, they can't attack it with this guy. And the only thing that can get it from this side, 1, 2, 3, is jar, because this obstacle will prevent a snowball. And obviously, these idiots cannot come back far enough to get there. Alternatively, of course, you swap these two, Gravedigger up here, it's just never going to die. Then the assumption here is that the 1 key is bait, which would then hypothetically draw in this or this, and then you collapse on it, like you use the stabby to shred them. They probably won't do that. And when I say stabby, just pretend it's also potentially bow mangles. I'm just tired of saying either one. I think that's better. That seems better than the jar response. Because then they have to vacate. I mean, maybe K9 stays here to shield the Spud. And if Gravedigger, like, you leave the 1 key here. So the 1 key stays here. Gravedigger's here. They have something here. Like, this spot is a question mark. We don't know what that is, but it's something. Hypothetically, they could bank, too. That gives them an extra body to potentially block with, but Gravedigger and Stabby means you're going to get through the K9 at least. Being down 4-2 sucks, but it's better than being down 5-1 or 6-0. Then once you if you can survive and deflect this, I think we might not be in terrible shape. Again, doing it the way Hakune did, it is entirely possible that you're going to win this game with like sub 1,000 health on your heart. But a win is a win, whether it's an inch or a mile. Like there's no advantage for running up the score in Phobies. Like you don't have to win by 1,000,000. Just win the game. So I think that is how you want to respond. And I'm open to comments, questions, suggestions, chat. Anything that people feel about this, because I think that is a reasonable way to do this. At least initially. And obviously, you still have to account for level discrepancies on ladder. You have to account for people, is somebody out of position? Did you just screw up? Did they screw up? That sort of thing. I think this is a reasonable way to do it, and this makes me way more interested in playing on the floor is lava, trying out either of these things if somebody tries it. So, that's what I have to say about that, chat.